Stop talking. Start feeling. That's how you evolve. You talk every day. To others, to yourself, to the world. But when was the last time you truly felt something? We've become masters of words, but strangers to our own emotions. We explain, justify, argue, and prove, but we rarely pause to feel. The truth is, the more you talk, the less you understand. The more you feel, the more you grow. Because evolution doesn't come from expression, it comes from connection. Not with others, but with yourself. When you stop talking, something powerful begins to happen inside you, something most people never experience in their lifetime. You start to hear the sound of your own being. In silence, the noise of the world fades away. The constant opinions, the endless chatter, the pressure to explain who you are. And suddenly, what remains is just you. No filters, no performances, no audience. That stillness feels uncomfortable at first, almost unbearable, because when the noise ends, you are left face to face with yourself, and that's where the real journey begins. Silence is not emptiness, it's awareness. It's the space where truth finally has room to speak. When you talk too much, you stay at the surface of your life. You express things you don't fully understand, you react before you reflect, and you miss the quiet messages your heart tries to send. But when you stop talking, you stop performing. You stop trying to prove your worth through explanations. You begin to realize that self-awareness is not found in what you say, it's found in what you observe. Silence is like a mirror. It shows you everything you've been avoiding. It reflects your fears, your desires, your wounds, and your hopes. And though it can be painful at times, that pain is the beginning of understanding. The mind hates silence because it loses control there. It wants to fill every empty space with thoughts, noise, or distractions. But growth doesn't happen in noise. Growth happens when you sit in that stillness and allow the discomfort to teach you. That's when your awareness expands. You start noticing how you speak to yourself, how you react emotionally, and what truly drives your actions. You begin to recognize the difference between what you want and what you need. That clarity doesn't come from talking, it comes from listening to your intuition, your emotions, your inner voice. Silence becomes a sacred space where transformation begins. It's where wisdom is born. You don't evolve by arguing with life, you evolve by observing it. You don't heal by speaking endlessly about your pain. You heal by feeling it quietly, fully, and honestly. The stillness you once feared becomes your teacher. And once you start learning from it, you realize that silence isn't the absence of communication. It's the beginning of connection. It's the doorway to the truest version of yourself, the one that doesn't need words to be understood, only awareness to be felt. We live in a world that rewards expression but rarely teaches understanding. Everyone wants to talk, to share, to explain, but very few people truly feel. We describe emotions instead of experiencing them. We analyze pain instead of allowing it to move through us. But when you stop talking and simply feel, you begin to understand life on a level that words could never reach. Feeling is not weakness, it's depth. It's the language of the heart that doesn't need translation. When you allow yourself to sit with what you feel, without judgment or defense, you begin to see the truth hidden inside every emotion. Sadness shows you what you value. Anger reveals what boundaries you've ignored. Joy shows you alignment. Every feeling is a message, and you miss it when you keep talking over it. Most people are afraid of their emotions because they've been taught to suppress them. They distract themselves with noise, social media, conversations, entertainment, anything that keeps them from facing their own heart. When you stop trying to explain everything, you create space for healing. Silence doesn't make you weak, it makes you aware. It allows your feelings to rise, breathe, and release. You begin to realize that every emotion has a purpose. The tears you hold back are not signs of fragility, they are signs of truth wanting to be felt. Every time you allow yourself to feel instead of escape, you grow. You evolve not by controlling emotions, but by understanding them. Feeling deeply is how you connect with the essence of life. You start to experience people, moments, and yourself with clarity. The world suddenly becomes more alive because you are no longer numb to it. You don't just see beauty, you feel it. You don't just say, "I'm grateful." You experience gratitude flowing through you. You stop reacting to life and start responding with awareness. That's the difference between living unconsciously and living deeply. When you truly feel, you gain wisdom that can't be learned through books or speeches. it comes from within. So stop explaining your emotions. Stop labeling every experience. Just feel. Feel the sadness. Feel the peace. Feel the confusion. Let it all flow through you without trying to make sense of it. Because feeling is understanding without words. It's the purest form of connection with life, with others, and with yourself. When you master the art of feeling, you no longer chase meaning, you become meaning. Growth doesn't happen in the noise of life, it happens in the quiet moments you spend alone, reflecting, questioning, and feeling. The world teaches you to keep speaking, to keep showing up, to keep proving yourself. But the truth is, every time you slow down and withdraw from the noise, something sacred begins to shift inside you. Real growth doesn't shout, it whispers. It comes in the form of self-awareness, forgiveness, and courage. You don't evolve by talking about what you'll do. You evolve by understanding who you truly are. The noise outside keeps you distracted, but the silence within helps you grow roots. It teaches you that depth is more valuable than attention, and understanding is more powerful than approval. When you step away from the constant rush to be seen and heard, you begin to feel life more deeply. You start noticing how your energy reacts to certain people, how your emotions change with your choices, how your thoughts shape your reality. You realize that much of what you thought you needed was only noise, validation, approval, and applause. The real strength comes from sitting with yourself in moments of stillness and asking, who am I becoming? The answer doesn't arrive through words. It arrives through presence. In that quiet reflection, you start to connect with something timeless, your essence, your truth, your depth. Growth isn't comfortable. It requires silence because silence removes the distractions that keep you safe. When you stop explaining yourself to the world, you start hearing what the world has been trying to tell you all along. That you are meant for more than talking. You are meant for transforming. The people who grow the most aren't the loudest. They're the ones who listen the deepest. They listen to their pain without judgment, to their failures without shame, and to their dreams without fear. That kind of listening creates power. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that elevates your spirit. So, when life feels chaotic and overwhelming, don't rush to talk it out. Sit in silence and let yourself feel it out. The lessons that matter most come when words disappear, because growth isn't found in the volume of your voice, it's found in the depth of your stillness. And once you've experienced that kind of growth, you'll realize something profound. You never needed to talk your way into peace, you just needed to feel your way into it. The mind never stops talking. It creates stories, arguments, doubts, and fears, a never-ending stream of noise. That keeps you disconnected from what really matters. But the moment you quiet that inner chatter, you begin to hear something softer, something truer, the voice of your heart, and that voice doesn't speak in logic or language, it speaks in feeling. It tells you what's right for you, what's real for you, and what's worth holding on to. The heart doesn't demand attention like the mind does. It waits for silence. That's why so few people ever truly evolve. They never stop thinking long enough to feel. When your mind is constantly active, you live in reaction. You judge, you analyze, you plan, you worry. But when your heart takes over, you live in connection. You stop performing and start being. You no longer need to prove your worth or justify your choices. You simply align with what feels honest, peaceful, and alive. The heart knows things the mind will never understand because the heart doesn't operate through logic. It operates through truth. That's why evolution happens when the mind quiets and the heart opens. It's not about learning more. It's about feeling more. When you begin to live from your heart, everything changes. Your relationships deepen because you start listening with empathy instead of judgment. Your goals shift from chasing recognition to seeking purpose. You stop chasing happiness and start creating meaning. And that shift from mind to heart is where transformation begins. The heart evolves when the mind finally steps aside. It doesn't mean you stop thinking. It means you stop letting thoughts control your being. Silence becomes your guide. Awareness becomes your strength. And love, not fear, becomes your motivation. So if you want to evolve, stop trying to control everything with logic. Sit in silence. Let your thoughts slow down until you can finally hear your heart speak. Feel what it's been trying to tell you about your pain, your purpose, your truth, because the moment you start feeling instead of overthinking, you rise above your old self. You enter a space where peace replaces pressure and presence replaces performance. That's the power of stillness. It doesn't make you less active, it makes you more alive. Evolution doesn't happen when you talk more or think harder, it happens when you feel deeper. There comes a moment in every person's life when words no longer work, when you realize that all the talking, explaining, and proving has only taken you further away from yourself. That's when you finally understand that evolution isn't about saying more, it's about feeling more. You begin to see that silence was never your enemy, it was your mirror. It was waiting for you to pause, to breathe, and to truly listen, not to the world, but to your soul. The people who evolve aren't the ones who talk the loudest, they are the ones who listen the deepest. Because when you start feeling, you start transforming. You start letting go of the noise, the judgment, the expectations. You begin to live not from your mind, but from your essence. When you stop talking and start feeling, you create space for healing. You allow your emotions to move freely, your thoughts to settle, and your awareness to expand. The world might not notice this transformation right away, but you will. You'll feel it in the way you breathe, the way you see others, the way you understand yourself. You'll begin to recognize that peace isn't something you find, it's something you uncover beneath the layers of noise. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, awareness over argument, and presence over performance, you evolve into someone wiser, calmer, and stronger. Evolution isn't an event, it's a silent unfolding. It happens in the quiet moments when you stop trying to fix everything and start accepting what is. It happens when you sit with your feelings instead of running from them. It happens when you allow pain to soften you rather than harden you. Feeling deeply doesn't make you fragile, it makes you free, because only when you feel do you begin to understand? And only when you understand can you truly grow. Words may inspire others, but feelings transform you. So let this be your reminder. You don't need to talk your way into growth. You need to feel your way into it. Silence isn't emptiness, it's wisdom waiting to be heard. The world will always be loud, but you can choose to be still. You can choose to evolve quietly, deeply, and authentically. Because that's where the real transformation begins. Not in the noise of your words, but in the depth of your heart. Stop talking, start feeling. That's how you truly evolve. There's a kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't need to be seen. It's the strength of quiet awareness, the kind that grows when you stop trying to explain yourself to the world and start understanding yourself from within. The more you live in that awareness, the less you need to talk. You begin to realize that people don't change through words. They change through presence, through energy, through the silent example of a life lived with depth. That's the essence of evolution. It's not about becoming louder, it's about becoming clearer. When you stop wasting energy on talking, you save it for becoming. You stop trying to control how people see you and start focusing on who you really are. In that stillness, everything you once chased begins to lose its grip. Approval, validation, attention, they no longer define your worth. You discover that your power lies in your peace, not in your performance. The heart doesn't evolve through endless conversations, it evolves through experience, through stillness, through truth. Every time you choose to feel instead of speak, you strengthen your connection to yourself. Every moment you spend in awareness deepens your understanding of life. You start noticing the subtle beauty in ordinary moments, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet comfort of solitude, the truth in a breath. That's not weakness. That's awakening. You'll notice something magical as you grow in silence. Your relationships change. You begin to attract peace instead of drama, understanding instead of argument. You stop trying to be right and start trying to be real. You start listening not just to others, but to what's behind their words, their emotions, their fears, their humanity. And in that awareness, you evolve beyond ego. You become someone who no longer reacts to life. You respond to it. You move with grace instead of resistance. You love without needing to be loved back. You give without needing recognition. That is the final stage of growth, when you no longer talk about becoming more because you already are. You live it, you breathe it, you embody it. You understand that silence isn't the absence of life, it's the presence of truth. The world may never understand your stillness, but that doesn't matter. You didn't come here to be understood, you came here to evolve. And sometimes the most powerful way to evolve is to say nothing at all. Just feel, just live, and just be. Sure, Here's the complete package for your video, including the 4-paragraph conclusion, thank you and goodbye note, SEO-friendly YouTube description, and why you should watch this video section with emojis, all in HeartTalk Studio motivational tone for the title. In the end, silence is not the absence of communication. It is the foundation of transformation. The world teaches us to speak, to convince, to prove. But the soul teaches us to listen not with our ears, but with our hearts. When you stop talking and begin to feel, you stop living on the surface and start diving into the depth of your being. You begin to recognize the quiet strength that lives inside you, the kind that doesn't demand attention but radiates truth. That is where growth begins, in the stillness, in the pause, in the moments where you allow yourself to simply feel. The journey of evolution is not about adding more to who you are. It's about peeling away what's false. Every moment of silence teaches you to release the need for validation, for explanation, for recognition. It invites you to face yourself, your fears, your doubts, your dreams without judgment. And that awareness becomes your awakening. You stop chasing meaning outside yourself and start discovering it within. The greatest conversations you will ever have are not with people, but with your own heart, in silence, in honesty, in peace. When you start feeling more, your world changes. You begin to see life as it truly is, raw, imperfect, yet beautiful. You stop trying to fix everything and start appreciating it. You start forgiving more easily, loving more deeply, and living more fully. Because when you feel, you connect. And connection is the birthplace of growth. You realize that every emotion, every moment, every pause was meant to teach you something about who you're becoming. And that's when you evolve, quietly, naturally, beautifully. So remember this. The loudest transformation happens in the quietest moments. You don't need to talk about who you're becoming. You just need to become. Let your silence speak for you. Let your energy be your language. Let your feelings guide you toward the person you were always meant to be. Stop talking. Start feeling. That's how you evolve. Not with noise, but with awareness. Not with words, but with truth. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you for spending your precious time here. If this message touched your heart, take a moment to breathe, reflect, and feel the silence within you. Don't just listen, live it. Every day, choose to feel a little more and talk a little less, because that's where peace and growth begin. If this speech inspired you, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to HeartTalk Studio for more deep, soul-awakening content. Your presence here matters, not because you're listening, but because you're feeling. Until next time, stay calm, stay aware, and keep evolving through your silence. Remember, the heart always knows what the noise forgets. Thank you for watching. Stay true, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next one.